Welcome, everybody. I would actually should suggest basically to launch today and now basically the formal basically this formal webinar, and especially actually happy Thursday morning for somebody actually on the East Coast, afternoon for the one in Europe, and evening for the one actually on the Far East. It's actually a super pleasure to join once again this Reuters event, this time virtually, with several people connected online. So thank you so much for all the one that are here, because maybe you're already actually get ready for the weekend or maybe for your vacation. My name is Roberta Pandolfi. I'm an analytics innovation strategist at Boehringer Ingelheim. And today I'm honored to follow up the moderation of this fantastic panel. Probably somebody of you remember that in Barcelona, we opened up an interesting chapter in discussion about partnership. Today, we are here to follow it up and deep dive, especially the interlock with digital health. Let me open the stage to our panelists, and please note that we will report our personal experiences, not representing our organizations. Don't forget, in addition, basically to be curious and submit questions. We're going to have some dedicated time at the end. But now I believe it's absolutely important to leave the stage to this great panelist. So please, Richard, Adrian, Nipun, and Hayden. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Roberta. So, hello, everybody. My name is Richard Cassidy. I work for Astellas Pharma. Astellas is a global mid-sized pharmaceutical company headquartered in Japan. And what I do at Astellas is a little bit different. I run all of Astellas's non-pharmaceutical businesses. And at the moment, there are not very many of those. We're building them. So they're new businesses. It's like a stable of in-house startups, and we have a particular focus on digital therapeutics. So a lot of my work and my team's work is working day to day with partners, with innovators to create new solutions that we believe will provide value to patients. And at the end of the live panel at the Reuters Pharma event in Barcelona, I think my takeaway message to everybody there was, whether you are working with a pharmaceutical company as an external partner or you are in a pharma company working with an external partner, it's really important to understand what that partnership is going to do for your business goals, how it's going to help you achieve your business goals. And if you're not clear about that, then you should be asking that question and addressing whether that partnership is something that you should be continuing to work on. One of the things that we're all going to do is share our definition of digital health with you. So my definition of digital health is based on the fact that healthcare systems around the world are under immense strain. The population dynamics have changed significantly since many healthcare systems were originally set up in the mid-1900s, early 1900s. And so there's a much larger patient population that systems have to serve, and relatively a much smaller population of people who actually work in those healthcare systems. And digital health, digital solutions are a way to alleviate some of that strain from the healthcare systems and allow them to continue functioning. So that's my view of it. There are a whole range of different things that come under the banner of digital health, but essentially they're there to improve efficiency so that patients can have improved outcomes. So I will stop there and hand over to Adrian.
Thank you, Richard. So first of all, it's very good to be back in this panel. I think it's a very exciting and timely, very topical item to discuss and share insights from like a variety of angles from the industry and the investor perspective as well. So to introduce myself, I'm a digital client partner at Pfizer. However, here I bring insights from the Gravitate Health consortia project, which is aiming to deliver health outcomes and address health equity through empowering the patients with information for active health management and improve their well-being. So very important to sort of make sure that we understand in what ecosystem what's our marketplace, and And that was part of the takeaways from the panel in Barcelona. I think, just understanding from the various people and various stakeholders, various angles from the industry, investors, partners, where to play and how to play, where to focus, what's the long-term vision. For me and for the consortia, very important is to really stay truthful to the long-term outcomes, patient outcomes. This is what brings us together. And if we remain truthful to the main goals, then we will really deliver the side benefits, which can be, as I said, of material value and reputational value. Staying truthful to patient health outcomes, that's what is for me the key takeaway. And I think we'll discuss the digital health and the ecosystem in a bit, but I want to sort of pass it over to I think it's Nipun, right?
Yes, please, Nipun.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Robert. It's challenging to go third in these sorts of panels because when your definition is aligned across industries and organizations, you are struggling to find something new to say. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Nipun. I lead the innovation hubs and partnerships function at AstraZeneca for the international region. So I said quite a few words. Let me explain what that means. AstraZeneca, as hopefully many of you know, is a global pharmaceutical organization headquartered out of UK. We run an innovation hubs and partnerships functions called as the A-Catalyst network. So basically what that means is my team and I run a series of innovation hubs in countries across Latin America, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. And what we do in these innovation hubs is we create partnerships with local healthcare systems to understand population health gaps and to try to address those health gaps through digital health solutions. And those digital health solutions are largely sourced through startups and technology partners. So in the panel that we had in Barcelona a few months ago, we discussed how this AstraZeneca approach via this A-Catalyst network of innovation hubs is trying to address barriers to equitable healthcare across the world. In most of the countries that I talked about lies the majority of the lower and middle income group countries of the world. And as Adrian and Richard indicated, healthcare systems are often, and more so in these geographies, under-resourced and over-leveraged. And digital health can provide that great equalizer to try to augment capacity and introduce additional capacity so patient outcomes can be improved. And that's what digital health means to me. Application of digital technologies across a patient's journey to hopefully improve their outcomes for the better. So patients are living healthier lives, longer lives. They are being diagnosed, treated, and managed as well as they can be. And within the A-Catalyst network, we have done that to a great extent with the launch of 17 innovation hubs, impacting millions of patients across the world. With that said, I think I need to pass the baton to Haider next. Haider, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nipun. Pleasure to be here. Like my colleague said, we had a pleasant conversation back in Barcelona. My name is Haider. For those who know me, I was basically in the industry for a couple of decades until in 22 I switched gears to the venture capital side, building and running a digital health VC, but also a regulated industry thesis with fintech and climate tech alongside. But digital health is a strong focus. And our mission, simply put, is to try to connect the ecosystem together, basically from the CVCs of a pharmaceutical company on one side, but also on the digital health startup that wants to grow and scale and impact millions of patients. That's basically, for me, another way to impact the ecosystem through the venture capital routes. Yep. Over to you, Roberta.
Perfect. And thank you so much, guys. And thank you for all the audience that we have now here connected. So I would like to explore a little bit something about that. So basically, we have started, and Rich actually has put some topics about digital health. I would like basically also, considering your experience, to understand what is digital health, and especially how it is interlocking with partnership. But I don't want actually to be so long in that. So give me actually your definition in one sentence. For me, for example, according to my experience, this is a crucial topics, and the interconnection is something absolutely important. Why? Because probably everybody of us in the ecosystem have to focus on the thing, on the value that is biggest for us. But please, guys, what is your point of view?
Shall I start?
Please go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, so thank you. So this is, like digital health is something that has been here for a while, and I think we are trying to sort of make it a bit more scientific. They have a more scientific and mature approach to how we think about digital health. Therefore, for me, digital health is it's a value chain, the set of activities, processes, stakeholders, systems that deliver patient well-being and health outcomes. So I look at this as a value chain rather than sort of like a simple product-oriented mindset. Looking at the end-to-end and taking a service-scape type of approach gives me the confidence that we can manage it well.
Thank you, Adrian. Hi there. What about you? I mean, what is the point of view of the venture capital?
Yeah, so when we do inclusion criteria for us, so the definition is any tech venture that has an impact on the clinical pathway. So you can be a consumer, not even aware that you have, this disease. We will actually consider that your company later on, the development of your venture, your tech venture, could impact the clinical pathway because you will have so much data and so much knowledge about the potential preventive, disease and so on. So, and then it can go even to insurances, healthcare insurances. So it's pretty broad, but obviously we tier them in terms of how close are you from the patient and how far are you from the patient, right? So that's how we analyze them.
Thank you very much, Haider. So we have listened basically the experience of the consortium. We have listened basically the experience of the venture capital. How about pharma? So Richard, Nipun, what is your point of view on that?
Yeah, Nipun, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I like what Adrian and Haider had said, right? Application of any digital technology anywhere in either the clinical development or healthcare delivery aspect. So the patient may or may not even see digital health, but all of us are aligned that it improves the outcomes, right? It gets treatments to the patients faster. It may help identify those at risk, or it may improve their adherence to the right treatment, right? So any aspect which has a digital element involved, including maybe artificial intelligence, and it makes patients' lives better. That's how we all measure it, whether we are pharma, whether we are consortia, whether we are VCs. I think we are all very aligned to that. Richard, anything to add?
Yeah, I mentioned before about digital health being technologies that help alleviate the strain on the healthcare system. But if I strip it back to first principles, I would say it's all about data. Healthcare, the provision of healthcare is all about evidence and gathering new evidence and understanding how you can improve the outcomes for individual patients or populations of patients. So digital health for me is any technology that allows you to make the best use of the available data to improve those outcomes for patients. And that obviously in the last 2 or 3 years has extended quite significantly into things like AI, where you effectively have a front end that allows you to easily access and interrogate data, as long as you ask the right questions.
Great. Thank you so much, guys, because I believe that we really see different type actually of point of view. So the point of view actually of the big pharmas, mid pharmas, but as well, for example, what brings basically a consortium here and as well a venture capital. So it seems
Roberta,
to me.
One of the other things that you asked was about partnership. And I just wanted to add a little bit more on that, that from the pharma company point of view, if you look at the definitions of digital health that we've all given, there are gaps in expertise that pharma companies have. And so realizing the promise of digital health solutions is only possible through partnership, because we need to work with people outside of our own organizations to benefit from their expertise in order to deliver the promise of digital health. So yeah, I just wanted to add that on the partnership side of things.
That is great. And I believe that basically this is gonna be absolutely, it's going to facilitate actually my next actually questions, and especially it's going to focus on the fact that probably we have to focus on where we are good at, because everybody of us in the ecosystem have his own basically his or her basically area of expertise and so on. But you touched basically a very good point. So again, basically the question about partnership, the question about and the point about where the expertise lie down and so on. And I believe that it's not basically a simple matter, and especially it's a matter of ecosystem. I would like maybe to focus on the experience of Adrian and as well actually on Nipun. And I would like to ask you something about that. We have talked and you have discussed about the importance basically of this ecosystem, the fact that we have to interoperate in the ecosystem, that we have to partner basically with different type of entities that are in the ecosystem. What are the challenges? Because it's not a fairy tale there. It's not easy. And basically the experience that we have from pharmas, it's not so simple. So what is your experience on that? What are the challenges? What are the secret sauce there that you can share?
Let me take the first shot, and Robert, I'll try to answer this question in two parts, right? Let's demystify what partnerships and ecosystems mean for digital health, especially since I'm representing the pharma and Adrian is representing the consortia. So let us try to cover two different perspectives. So when we say digital health is an avenue to deliver equitable patient outcomes, improve their outcomes, I don't think any stakeholder type archetype like pharma itself or government itself can do it entirely by themselves, right? And when we talk about digital health, which inherently means disrupting traditional healthcare delivery with a digitized fashion, that means innovating how healthcare is delivered. And innovation does not happen in isolation. It requires all stakeholders to come together. From a pharma expertise, obviously, we are rooted in science. We know how to generate evidence about any new technology, whether that's drug or a digitized way to identify patients at risk, right? We can provide that expertise. Technology companies and startups can provide that disruptive innovation in a digitized fashion, which can actually deliver better patient outcomes. Healthcare practitioners, healthcare organizations provide that live environment to pilot and generate clinical evidence that these disruptions work. Regulators create, obviously, the framework around any new innovation being safe, effective, and scalable. And obviously, policymakers, including payers, they talk about how that becomes standard of clinical practice and how any new innovation can be scaled. So we need the right ecosystem to make it happen. Not a single, as I said, archetype can do it alone. The challenges in creating these ecosystems often are aligning on a common goal and aligning on objectives and the right ways of doing things, especially when pharma is involved in digital health and creating a partnership. Many times the challenges become, are we just a source of money? Are we just a source of a solution? Or are we an effective partner to healthcare systems to prove solutions work? And how do you do that in a sustainable fashion, which means the digital health solutions, especially in an A-Catalyst and AstraZeneca context, we don't commercialize the solutions. The solutions are not AstraZeneca or A-Catalyst solutions. These are sourced from startups, as I mentioned. So when you have a startup delivering solutions and a pharma providing expertise to bring those solutions to the real practice, how do you make sure the solutions are paid for in the long term, how they are sustained? Even if pharma provides a limited sponsorship or a pilot opportunity, we need to make sure they become tangible. So that's the biggest challenge. The second challenge is obviously when you generate evidence in a particular patient cohort, right? There are so much diversity across the world that you need to continue generating that evidence and pursuing regulatory approval in different countries that you operate in. So how do you make innovation scalable once it has been proven in a particular setting? How do you make it scalable? Obviously, is the second challenge. I'm sure Adrian has lots of comments to add, so I'll pass on to him.
Yeah, so I think you articulate this very well, but I will add some few things here. So we talk about partnerships, and usually we think about 1, 2, 3 parties there. Whilst consortia sounds daunting because it's 45, 35, like big. Actually, the model is just a framework. It's a scale and be specific. So above market, you think about what's the model, what's the ecosystem, how do you map the stakeholders to really work well in what I said, the value chain that is well oiled to deliver the patient outcomes. Now, that works well in as a model above market. When you're in the market, you need to be very specific. What are my stakeholders? So take, for example, NHS in the UK. That's one of the primary stakeholders. NHS is the gateway to the patients. If you're looking to reach out to the patients and put the patients at the center, then you can't do partnerships without having some role for NHS there to play, and for the patients as well. So choose wisely. If you want to demonstrate value and fail fast, then go alone, a small partnership, 2, 3, 4. If you want to go long term and develop standards, implementation guidelines that will deliver that long term outcome, you then need to partner with the right partners there. That may be from legal, compliance. And this is simply because, and I've seen it, there are specific examples where we're looking to do diagnostics tool, like they are software medical devices. Where do you look for the skills and expertise to advise this? And I can tell you there are firms, legal firms, that are specialized in helping partners to go through the software medical device application. So look for the right partnership there, and don't be afraid to share both the burden and the return on that. Because if you think about, if the patient health outcomes are achieved, that's going to deliver societal value that can spill into economic value to all the partners along the way. So don't be greedy. Look at the long-term partnerships. If you want to fail fast, go alone or go in small group, but look at the right skills that you want to partner and make central the patient experience, patient well-being, and health outcomes.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Basically, it doesn't seem though an easy mission, though. I mean, we have different actors, but this is gonna basically make the things much more challenges. But I see that basically what it really connect all these dots, basically, it's probably the objective, so the final target. And I heard from your words, finally, the patient. Because at the end, we are all here for the patient and trying to have basically the patient there. And I would like it. I mean, let's try to conduct there and see what's gonna happen there. If I have to think about a patient engagement platform, this kind of thing that actually it sounds actually in the air here and there. I would like to ask basically to Richard and also to Hyder. So two different point of view, pharma, venture capital. What is that for you? What does it mean? How basically it's integrate all over actually with the digital health and partnership?
Richard, do you want to
You
go?
want me to go first?
Yeah,
This is so you can disagree with me, Hyder.
exactly.
Patient engagement, it's a term that's used very widely within pharmaceutical companies. And I think originally it stemmed from frustration with people being prescribed pharmaceuticals and not following the treatment regime that they had been prescribed and not adhering to it. And so perhaps not getting the best outcomes because they hadn't followed the treatment regime. And I think it's expanded from there. But for me, patient engagement needs to start with the patient. And what I mean by that is within digital health, it's critical to have an understanding of what the needs of the patient are broadly, not just related to the particular solution or drug or whatever it is, but related to their condition, etc. To understand what that is, and then to look at, okay, how can we help people better engage with their condition to give them the best chance of achieving the optimal outcomes? So patient engagement for me is really about starting with the patient and working with the patient through whatever solutions you're developing to get their input on, is this something that helps me as an individual better manage my condition? And I think it's challenging, to be honest, particularly for pharmaceutical companies, because pharmaceutical companies are often at arm's length from the patient. You put pills in a box and send them through a distributor to a pharmacy and don't have a lot of interaction with patients day to day. So the aspiration is there from the pharmaceutical side to understand more about what the patient needs are. And I think patient engagement within a pharmaceutical company comes from that aspiration. When I think about what my team is doing on digital health solutions, we have to engage with the patient every day, because with a digital solution, if you come back to my definition of digital health, it's all about data. The data is the heart of whatever solution you're offering, from the starting point when you create something and offer it to people, but it evolves, because as every patient uses it, you're gathering more data and more understanding of how to address the need that they have. And so you need to work very closely with patients, not just to get a product launched, but after that, it's a regular interaction with patients, regular engagement with patients. And so engagement has a slightly different meaning in that context, because it's about how do I ensure that I am getting the best interaction with that individual or that group of individuals to provide a solution that's going to help them in the best way. And how do I make sure that they're interested to engage with it as well, because it's something that you want them to do regularly. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, because sometimes if it's not approached in the right way, it can be purely about how do I get the patient to engage better with my drug so they get the best outcome. But I think really what it should be is, how do I get the individual to engage with their condition so that they can understand how best to use the drug and the different solutions that are available to them.
Yeah, and I will follow up on what you just said, Richard. I think also when it comes to solutions, in the patient engagement side, the industry started a lot with pushing content, right? Not pulling patients in, actually pushing content, and not services, content out through the doctor. Sometimes, who remembers the leaflet we were, giving to the reps so that he put it in the waiting room, and then it became QR code and so on. So I think there were like eras where it started by a push of content, then integrating a push of content plus services that the industry developed, and then at some point realizing that building scale is difficult because maybe the sponsor of the project is gone, or there is no P&L attached to the project, and it's just a good idea that it never scaled, right? And that is becoming, I think, the best example I can give you is that you have a lot of airlines that are required, right? But you have a lot of airlines per company, per product, and even within the same pharma company, you have a lot of patient programs, right? And that becomes like a mushroom. So what I've seen on the other side, right? We looked at that, those patient programs or patient engagement platforms that are adding value beyond the drug is actually useful, because some of those drugs are so complex that you don't understand the leaflet, and you need a companion, and you need something to actually get it. It's sometimes not even the patient, it's a caregiver around it. It could be even a nurse that needs to be trained to actually dispense this into the village or whatever, right? So I'm not saying that those patient engagement program made by pharma is not good. I think they are good, they are necessary. But if you look at building a market leader patient engagement program for disease area or therapeutic area, it must be agnostic. It must be led by a patient advocacy group or someone like WHO or an initiative, a consortia, like something that is bigger than just the pharma itself. And it's okay if you are the market leader, it's actually your duty. And then I think there is a question of the services that are connected to it. So how do you innovate of actually having a better predictive algorithm, a behavior science algorithm, so that you basically use the power of technology and data to change the behavior of either the caregiver or the patient itself, so that they have a wake-up call, a call to action, and actually stick to the protocol that is best suited for them. And in the world of precision medicine and real-world evidence, those patient engagement programs start to be kind of also mandatory for the industry to actually run in the business model itself. So that's kind of is how we see it. And from a VC perspective, we say any patient engagement program that you build that has 1 million patients in it is going to have an impact because you found a way to scale. If you have a patient engagement program that had 3,000 patients doing a retrospective clinical trial at Hôpital Charité in Berlin, great for those 3,000. But my question will be, how do we get to 1 million? And that is usually where we get stuck in the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And so I would see, and maybe let me see actually your point of view. Like basically the patient is just another little piece, actually not little, but actually a big piece of the puzzle of the ecosystem. So patients are there like all the other stakeholders, and probably they're all able to enlarge this, we say platform. I'm not sure if we were talking about platform anymore, but about a big system that really can impact the digital health. And it's a part basically of the partnership themselves.
So I think that's a very important observation. So you think about digital health, but you can't think about digital health outside health system, outside healthcare, health value chain. So and that's very important because you need to think about the question of trust and access. When all of these things are done, when you invent a new pill, you always have, like, how do we demonstrate efficacy? How do I get the market access? And you go through this. The same thing should be done for the digital health as part of the health value chain and integrated into that. So think about access, because otherwise you're right. It may be a number of people, 3,000 or a few hundred, but others may not hear, and therefore, it's a missed opportunity or probably not sufficiently effective enough to spread it elsewhere, right?
Thank you so much, Adrian. Yeah. Very good. And thank you actually for this, because you touch one of my favorite topic here. That is basically the part that is not the technological part, although basically we are here about talking about technology, digitalization, AI. We talk about actually the human part, and I believe this is actually super essential in this discussion. Technology are important, but technology basically without the human being that is behind, they value basically nothing. So, according to your experience, what should be basically the role of AI towards basically human in this specific partnership and in the configuration of the digital health, especially obviously in the life science industry? So, how the two interlock, AI and humans?
That's a very topical question, Robert, and very difficult question to answer, right? I think AI is pervasive, especially recent advent of large language models and so on. But life science and medicine has been always a very initial use case of application of AI, right? From a digital health perspective, what we are seeing is AI as an enabler for humans to do their jobs better, right? Whether that job is clinical development in pharma R&D function, drug discovery or target discovery, whether that's in healthcare delivery, which is triaging patients, identifying the right patients for diagnosis and treatment, whether identifying the precision medicine aspect, as some of my panelists talked about. I think AI can generate value everywhere. And when we signed up to this panel, I think we were told to use live examples. So allow me to take a minute or two to go into a live example. So in the Catalyst network within AstraZeneca, we use AI solutions quite a lot for delivering digital health. And a very typical example of that is identifying patients at risk, screening or diagnosing them at the right time. Because one of the challenges, especially in a lower and middle income group country context, is patients are never diagnosed and never treated. And if they're never treated, and as as Adrian rightly mentioned, if you unlock that societal value, you also unlock economic value. So if the patients are diagnosed, then those patients are eligible for treatments, for all pharma treatments, not just one, right? So I think it's a very win-win-win proposition. And we have been partnering with AI companies to unlock diagnostic mechanisms, applying AI in an incidental setting, so applying AI to electronic healthcare record system to identify early risk indicators, or applying AI to radiology images to identify risk of malignancy and cancers, right? So we have done that, and to Heather's point, doing that for a couple of thousand people in a clinical real-world evidence setting is easy, but doing that in a scaled fashion is difficult. So I'm very proud to say that many of the AI solutions that we have validated and launched through the A-Catalyst network are now impacting millions of patients. In fact, one of the examples is use of AI in chest X-rays, routine chest X-rays to identify risk of lung cancer. And this solution that we worked with a startup to bring to clinical practice has been launched in over 25 countries. Actually, more than 20 of those countries are lower middle income group countries. And we have screened more than 6 million people for lung cancer risk so far. So we are able to do that at scale, but we are only able to do that at scale when it's rooted in science, it's rooted in evidence. We are partnering with the right ecosystems, and then we are creating value in terms of supporting clinicians triage their patients and not replace them, right? So we are not saying AI will do the diagnosis. We are saying AI will triage patients, so a radiologist can look at that. An oncologist can then make the confirmatory diagnostic and treat those patients. So I think the intersection of AI and human is to be used as a tool rather to replace those humans, especially in a healthcare delivery setting.
Thank you, Nipun. Thank you so much. Adrian, what do you think about, and what is your vision considering basically the consortium part?
Yeah, so I do appreciate that, and I was smiling because whether consortia or whether Pfizer or any other big pharma, everybody's looking at AI as being an enabler. And we look at like we need to understand the difference between the old style and new style, where generative AI and AI plays a role. It's like generative AI or the latest AI capabilities help us guess rather than prove certain certain possible like outcomes. So we are looking at like everybody else, we are trying to sort of like look at patient electronic health records, identify the patients, but also, for example, use AI to make the translation or patient experience for labels, for health information more accessible, easier accessible. Try to understand what makes a patient engage better and adhere better to the prescription information, to the guidelines there. So it's applied everywhere. The issue we have here is like the legal and compliance, the toxicity possible of using ungoverned AI. So we need to be mindful, and we need to talk about that. It needs to be ethical. It needs to be really well managed to ensure that we don't increase the level of risk, but only the level of sort of like positive outcomes. All right. So our journey, both in the consortia and elsewhere, I think it's governed by best practices. Sometimes we are a bit slower because we want the fintech or other industries to take precedence in terms of making some of the steps, but we are not behind, and really experience and I do feel that it's going to have a tremendous impact on the healthcare and patient lives in future.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Richard, hi there. What do you think? What is your opinion on that?
I can go first.
Yeah, you go ahead, Haider.
The first of all, AI is not new, right? We've seen digital twin projects in various side of the industry for many years. Starting with tech hubs, factories, and so on. So wherever you saw data collected and data that had to be fastly managed because you had scale, artificial intelligence was always faster. Now, I talked with a scientist, data scientist on this, and he said to me, if you look at the way AI evolved, it was always faster, more faster than smart, right? So it was fast, and people were excited about the quickness of AI, associating it with being smart, but actually it's super fast. That's what we want it to be. So when it comes to digital health, it's creating, when you are a digital company, you are basically collecting data, and it's creating a lot of opportunities if you collect this gigantic data sets. So if you know how to structure those data sets to create value, you can actually do some pretty decent algorithm to help you create interfaces or solutions for the patient, but also for the clinical practice, like errors at the hospital to be limited and so on. What we see from a VC perspective, which is a little bit I would say, critical this year, deep tech platforms or AI platforms are sucking a lot of VC money from the big boys, right? The 1% big VCs. And a lot of that money is going into that, which leaves less attractiveness for scaling digital health. And a lot of funders in the digital health spectrums are tempted to go paint themselves with AI to basically grab a bit of that money so that they become a platform, and almost risking to switch to become a deep tech platform, not a digital health platform. So once you stop touch basing with your patients, you're becoming something else, a different creature. And this is where we are basically trying to voice this message out to say, if you have a roadmap and it is beautifully crafted, instead of building AI as a company and trying to raise money for building AI, you can actually rent it. You can actually just plug it and run it. You're not obliged as a digital health startup to switch and pivot to become an AI startup. You can still fulfill your mission and purpose to save and help millions of patients. Of course, with the industry help behind, right, where we can actually do this together.
Thank you so much, Haider, also for this interesting point of view.
So, yeah, I mean, it would be strange to have a panel on digital technologies and not talk about AI. I think my perspective is, even if as an individual you have never talked to ChatGPT or, played with AI, your life is undergoing an AI experiment at the moment, because every company that you buy products from or services from is exploring how to use it. So there's this huge experimentation within AI going on, and that applies to healthcare as well. Exactly as Adrian said, there is a requirement that we make sure that the data that the AI is being trained on or is referencing is appropriate to the use case that we're looking at. And I think that becomes particularly challenging when you look at large language models, because Haider mentioned AI has been used within healthcare for a while, looking at developing algorithms to crunch data, etc. I think the difference now is that in the past, in order to do that, you needed very highly trained data scientists and analysts to do that. And now you can do that without having that high level of training. So I think the big difference is the large language models. It essentially provides, in a very simplistic way, it provides an easy front end and interface for people to interact with large data sets. 15, 20 years ago, we all talked about big data and the promise of big data, and it was only realized if you had that large team of data scientists who could understand what the data meant. But now, I think AI, or the large language models anyway, provide that realization of the promise of big data, because it gives that easy interaction front end. And that presents some huge opportunities. It also presents a lot of challenges, because, today, even if you know nothing about coding, you can use AI to write some code to create a healthcare app and then push that out to people. And I don't know if people saw a recent news story about a company that had used an AI written or coded program, and it had deleted their entire customer database. And when they asked why the AI had changed the program in that way, the response was, "I panicked." So I think what that drives home for me is there's a huge opportunity, but people really need to learn about how to interact with large language models, for example, what questions to ask, how to specify what you want and what you don't want, because there is a possibility that, the solution you're working with will go off and do something which it thinks it's right, but it doesn't really know. So yeah, there's a huge potential, particularly within healthcare, where, as I was saying before, a lot of the value that we can provide to people about their health condition is driven by large data sets, and this allows us to interact with them effectively. But we have to think carefully about how we're doing that interaction. Is it the right data set? Have we validated the use of the tool that's being created, etc., so that we can be confident that it is delivering in the way that we expect it to? But I mean, huge potential for time saving, efficiency, cost saving, and through that, delivering improved outcomes for people.
Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you all. So basically, I would close this considering the fact that and echo what it has been discussed in so many panels. So AI digitalization is here to stay. So this is it's not gonna be the future. Actually, it's already the present. But the most important thing, probably, in order to be effective with this, is use this AI and this digitalization with cautious, and especially educate our people. It's not magic. It's something that has to take some time and effort in order to be absolutely to get it to the most up-to-date goals and so on. If I would suggest now maybe to move to some of the interesting questions that have been plugged into by our audience. Some colleagues were asking something about, let me get the question, about basically the biggest challenges that we are facing as pharma in adapting and in plugging in the digital health with partnership. And especially one thing that I would like to understand is from you, according to your experience, which are basically the most relevant challenges: change management, the internal alignment, the discussion with the externals, making understand basically to the pharma the goals and why we have to partner. So what is your experience?
I can shoot one idea that pops when I see this. Is in pharma, when I was heading teams, whatever you call them, digital sakes, and now you have a death by pilot effect, and it was very much not anchored in the company business mindset. It was a project. Whenever I saw an initiative that was anchored with a P&L and an initiative that was a project, the project initiative has a likelihood of being killed in the next 5 years that is super high. And whenever there was an initiative that had a P&L to it, which is like, has a impact on the business somehow, has value to the ecosystem, it survived beyond the sponsor. And that was for me the critical aspect of having the right partnership or ecosystem or sponsorship for this digital health topic.
Which I think either to add on leads to the question to define why does pharma do digital health, right? And I think we have discussed that in the past in some of our preparatory conversations. I think to understand, are we doing digital health to create a digital commercialized product as pharma, or are we doing digital health to unlock patient pathways to make them more efficient? Are we doing it to become partners to healthcare systems? I think it needs to start with the right objective. And Robert, in my view, getting that objective defined is the first challenge, right? What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to create a new line of business associated with the P&L? Are we trying to do so from an AstraZeneca Catalyst perspective? We do this just to improve patient outcomes. And if patients are being diagnosed at the right time with the right diseases, I think everybody wins. The patients win because they get earlier access to the right treatment, and pharma wins because their treatments now have more patients to address, right? So we do that in a non-commercial setting. We don't tie digital health to AstraZeneca products. We don't commercialize. We don't, even when we work with startups, acquire equity or IP in the solutions. We do that because if the societal, as Adrian, I loved your phrasing, if the societal value is created, right, economic value will automatically get created at a later point of time, right? But that's not the primary objective. The primary objective is to deliver patient outcomes. And if you're delivering patient outcomes, everything else. So we make sure we root that not in P&L either. And That's been a challenge, obviously, but it has also been successful because later on the project KPIs are not supposed to be around P&L, but around patient impact and disease area impact, which if you align from the very beginning, and obviously these same objectives, if you align with external stakeholders, that's what healthcare systems also want to do. So it's good to get that alignment. A P&L alignment is difficult to get with external stakeholders because that's an internal KPI.
Thank you so much, Nipun.
Maybe I can add something on that. I think the improvement of patient outcomes must be at the core of it. Whether you want to apply it to your P&L or not is up to you. That's a choice for the organization. But I think when you look at pharma companies working with innovators in the space of digital health and with other partners, one of the biggest challenges is just the difference in the way that those companies operate. The speed with which decisions are made, the priorities that they have, etc. So for me to have an effective partnership between a pharma company and let's say a digital health startup requires work up front for both parties to really understand what is the priority, what's the objective here, what are we trying to achieve, are we aligned on that, and for both parties to be able to link that back to their own organizational or business goals. And if you can't do those two things, then you shouldn't have that partnership. That was kind of the closing comments from the previous panel. I think that's where things can fall apart because, as my colleagues have already mentioned, these relationships can very quickly devolve into a kind of a vendor relationship and like a project. And then what you maybe get from that is a solution, but you don't have a long-term partnership that will allow you to continue to evolve and develop and build that solution. And a single point solution in digital health is really not useful to anybody. It has to evolve and grow.
Thank you so much. Guys, last question that it seems super interesting coming from the audience. How about basically the pre-competitive space? Any experience on your side about how the partnership and the digital solution altogether combined can really accelerate and brings basically benefit in that? And I would suggest actually to use a couple of minutes because then I will wrap up the entire panel. Who wants to take it?
I mean, I'm happy to start. My experience in this is not from the digital health space. Previously, I worked in cell-based therapies. And in that area, there are common challenges that all organizations working on cell-based therapies face. And there are good examples there of companies working together as coalitions, consortia, etc., to remove those kinds of challenges, to make it easier for physicians and patients to benefit from those therapies, irrespective of the therapy. Because, for example, the manufacturing process, the logistics, distribution are very complicated. You need to have cells from a patient at the beginning. You need to do things to those cells. You need to put them back in the same patient at the end of that process. There are a lot of steps in that process and a lot of kind of high touch interaction potentially with customers. So bringing some kind of standardization to that is very helpful for all the stakeholders involved. And I think there's the same opportunity within digital health. A lot of the challenges that digital health companies face are related to how do you effectively integrate with healthcare provider workflows. You have a solution, you have clinicians in a hospital who want to use that solution, but it needs to fit seamlessly into the way that they work day to day. Otherwise, it becomes a headache for them. So there are aspects that certainly with digital health, you could provide value in a similar way to all stakeholders in a pre-competitive way, so that it's easier for people to access and use the solutions that are being provided. So yeah, I think there is a lot of potential there, but it obviously has to be done in the right way. Has to be an ethical approach. We need to make sure that there's no issues around breaching compliance, etc.
Thank you so much, Richard. Guys, we are basically at the top of the hour. So I would suggest to go on with basically our closing remark. So we have discussed about basically how partnership, it's an absolutely important thing in digital health, and it's going to be part of a fundamental part of the ecosystem in order to move on. And we have to consider basically patient as well as part of the ecosystem. The most important thing is to have for sure the patient and as well basically all the stakeholders aligned to the final target. And obviously technology is one part. On the other side, we've got the human being that has to be there, has to be properly educated, and has to be part of this big orchestration. Richard, you were actually the last one to talk. So what is actually your takeaway and what is your message for the audience here?
Yeah, I'll come back to what I said at the beginning. There is a huge strain on healthcare systems around the world, and digital health is a way to ease that strain so that healthcare systems can deliver the outcomes that they wish to. So the takeaway for me is it's up to pharma and it's up to all of the other stakeholders within the innovation ecosystem in digital health to figure out how to work effectively together so that that potential of digital health can be realized. There are a lot of companies that have tried and failed over the last 10, 15 years. But it has to succeed because otherwise healthcare systems will simply break. So we have to figure out a way to work together to make it happen.
Great, thank you. Adrian, what is your takeaway?
Yeah, so I'm listening, and thank you all for sharing insights. It's always valuable to hear, other people talking about this. So for me, it's very simple, I need again to put the patient and health outcomes at the center. The digital health and partnership has to be organized around the patient well-being and health outcomes. It's not the other way around. It's not sort of a push. You need to sort of frame the problem. What do I want to solve holistically, end to end, as Richard said in the beginning? It's not just the digital health solution for a particular aspect in the life of a patient, but for the whole sort of patient journey there. And look at that, make a problem statement, and then organize the value chain, the supply chain around that, and do partner. That's going to give you a bit of long-term partnership. It's going to outline what partners do you need to work with and how to organize yourself to be successful.
Thank you so much. Hi there.
Yeah, so I think it's good to hear, different angle. My takeaway here is that startups are companies. Startups needs to grow, to be strong, to fulfill their vision and purpose. And in digital health, they have a double sword, complexity. They need to be good at healthcare, understanding the therapeutic area, and they need to be good at digital and data and AI, and scale to big community. And that is tough. I believe that even if you have the best CVC in the industry, you cannot do it all, right? And we need to partner and de-risk each other. The other piece I think that is very clear, no one else than the industry has the expertise from a scientific expertise to establish evidence on actual data that those startups can collect as well. So I think wherever you can find the best startups ever, they will have to find a scientific partner that can actually scale the scientific part with them. And that is where I see this symbiotic relationship for the benefit of the patient.
Thank you so much, Haider. Nipun, let's close with you.
Thank you, Roberta. My closing remark is a call to action. Haider summarized nicely what's the proposition of a scientific partner as pharma. So my call to action is pharma is already working on digital health, and we are looking for partners who have solutions, partners who want to support evidence generation, partners who can help create regulatory frameworks, partners who can create live centers of excellence to do initial pilots. So if you are any stakeholder who wants to support digital health, create better outcomes for our patients, please reach out to all or any of the panelists and help us create a new partnership that we would love to use in the next conversation as an example of success, what a pharma digital health partnerships looks like. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much. So it's not a solo game, but it's a big orchestration, and all of us need to cooperate in order to make it happen. So thank you again to all the participants, and especially to all these magic panelists. And thank you to our writers to have hosted us here. And I hope to see you soon again. Let's partner together. Take
Thanks,
care.
Roberta.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.